This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast, your number one source for WKU sports news and information, and a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. I especially recommend Twitter or X, whatever you're calling it these days. That's going to be our main feed where we're updating the most with current news and information as it happens. Also, make sure you slide over to our YouTube channel at Topper Talk Podcast. Make sure you subscribe over there. Get a notification every time we upload an episode. And I've got Tyler here with me, man. We've got a good episode to dive into, man. You ready?
Yeah, man, let's get into it.
Before we jump into some football talk, we have to get caught up with our Red Towel wrap-up, which catches us up with all the news that we've missed since we last recorded. So, Tyler, hit us with that Red Towel wrap-up.
All right, so starting off strong, WKU cross country opened their season at the Belmont opener, and the men finished third and the women finished fourth.
Yeah, good opener. That's always a tough field down there in Nashville. One thing I came away surprised and pleased with is when I was looking at the full results, which always is on WKUsports.com. We're not listing them off here, but both of the teams were led by freshmen. So that's really encouraging for, as the team gets later into the season and hopefully those runners get better. And for the futures of the program, to have freshmen leading the way is a pretty good thing in my eyes. So congratulations to them.
WKU soccer, they defeated Union 5-1 and lost to Dayton to a score of 0-1.
Yeah, that's a really good Dayton team that they lost to. Couldn't get on the board. Had a few shots at it, just couldn't get one to hit the back of the net, and then rebounded pretty good against Union 5-1. We've seen this team; they're pretty good offensively. They're putting a lot of balls in the back of the net. Really hope that continues through the non-conference and then obviously into CUSA play.
WKU volleyball, they are still receiving votes in the AVCA top 25 after their 2-1 opening weekend.
Yeah, they had a good opening weekend here at home. It was the Hilltopper Classic. Had a really good tough field. Teams that have played in the NCAA tournament recently. Unfortunately, we lost our middle blocker Izzy Vanderweil in the very first game. She went down with a sprained ankle, but they were still able to win their first two matches, and then unfortunately lost their third match to Drake in 5 sets. It was a nail biter. Obviously, we think Izzy would have made a difference in that, but still getting respect of the top 25 voters, still receiving votes just on the outside looking in. They head up to Marquette for the Marquette Invitational up in the Chicago area, which will be another really strong field. A chance to go have some good wins, and hopefully Izzy, if she's ready, can come back. But if not, we've still got a pretty good team as we showed this past weekend.
And Kara Knox was named Freshman of the Week in Conference USA.
Yeah, she a true freshman, Kara Knox, making her first starts, first games on the hill. I think she had something like 46 kills over the 3 matches. So she just absolutely blew up and had a heck of an opening weekend for the top. So, we say it all the time. Travis Hudson reloads. He doesn't rebuild. He just reloads and finds talent. And she's another shining example of that. And we've got several really good young members on this team. So looking forward to seeing them grow this year.
Another week, another accolade for Cole Maynard, who was named to the Ray Guy 8 for week 1.
Yeah, I guess they didn't have that for week 0, or he definitely would have been on there with the 50-yard average. But week 1, he actually had a 53-yard average, so he actually upped his numbers a little bit. Just another incredible week. He is just booting the heck out of the ball. Everything is just flying off his foot. So we obviously congratulations to him. We hope that continues the rest of the season because that is a weapon.
And not to steal your tagline, but Death, Taxes, and Maverick McIver named the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, 2 times in a row. 2 games, 2 offensive players of the week. I think there's a good chance he could win a majority of those this year. And then obviously the offensive player of the year. I think I would go ahead and pencil that in, start engraving the nameplate on the trophy at the end of the year because Maverick's that dude, man. Congratulations to him.
And Lady Topper Golf finished 10th at the Boilermaker Classic. They were led by Sydney Hackett, who finished in 13th place.
Yeah, as always, full results of that invitational are on WKUsports.com. This is obviously a little bit of a younger team, looking to replace Katie Craig, the all-timer that left the program, exhausted her eligibility last year, and now on the Epson tour, doing the pro thing. But Sydney Hackett, did a great job leading the team. Team still finished in 10th place in a really good field. So definitely a good showing for their first event of the season.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Red Tail Wrap Up. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, good stuff as always. Sports are in full effect and swing, and just good news pretty much across the board there. Love to hear it. Now, typically, we'd be jumping into a North Alabama recap. The 55-6, demolishing that was at the house this past Saturday. But you and I got to talking about it and just, everything that we predicted and talked about in the preview and just expected to happen and wanted to happen. And even down to our score predictions, both of us were basically just dancing right around it on both sides, in the 50s and holding them to single digits. So, really good game. And we just decided we're just going to breeze on through that recap and just put that one to bed and jump on into Toledo. But obviously, it was an awesome game, a lot of offense, continued growth of Maverick and the wide receivers and just whole offense in general. But Tyler, I guess real quick, put that game to bed. What were your thoughts on the game? I know you were there as well.
The fans could have been a lot better. It was like 12,000 announced crowd. But the team played great. I think we may had like one or two slow drives at the beginning, but really after that, our defense played great. Only held them 6 points, and they only came in like the first half, if not the first quarter. Offense was rolling. Some major highlight plays from KD Hutchison, Matthew Henry. Uh, Running backs got some love too. Marvin Sims, but just a great night of all around team ball. And then, second string got in there. I think maybe some third string got in there. But Tucker Parks looked sharp. One thing I'd say we need to clean up on that is the penalties. As soon as they came in, the penalty number just exploded. But hey, they're all, younger. Don't really just need to get things on tape just so they can watch it. And all in all, just a dominating game.
Yeah, it was really nice to see those the second stringers come in. But yeah, there were quite a few holding penalties once that offensive line changed over to the depth guys. So some stuff to work on there, and I'm sure Helton and Bernardi are working on that. So we're gonna roll right into our week 2 game 3 preview, and that's against Toledo. The game is this coming Saturday. It's on September 6th. It's at the Glass Bowl in Toledo, Ohio. The game is at 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus. WKU enters the game with a 2-0 overall record, while Toledo is 0-1. They just lost this past Saturday, 16-24 to UK. Toledo is expecting a really solid crowd. Just talking to some friends and people that we did a podcast with last year for the game here in Bowling Green. They're expecting 24,000. So that's a pretty hostile environment. That's obviously a sellout here if it was at the house plus some. Now, Toledo is led by their head coach, Jason Candle, who is entering his 10th year as head coach, and he has an overall record of 73-40. And I went back and was watching parts of their game against UK earlier today, and I saw that with their next victory by him, he will be Toledo's all-time winningest coach. So, it kind of reminds me a lot of a Tyson Helton type. He's just been there a long time, consistent winner, finds good talent, develops it. Um, but he's also been there a long time, and maybe there's a reason for that. I'm not going to dive into it, but not winning big enough, often enough to get poached away. Say what you want to say. Now, last year Toledo finished with a record of 8-5 overall. They were 4-4 in MAC play, and they also had a loss here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, 21-26. And what I would call it a tale of two storms. I was going to say a tale of two halves, but that storm that rolled through in the second half really kind of just shook the game up, kind of reset both teams, and WKU came out from that delay and just took over and held on for the win. Quite frankly, it was a crazy ending with a couple interceptions there down at the wire. This is the second all-time meeting between the programs. WKU obviously has that 1-0 edge. The Vegas betting spread has opened with WKU as a 6.5 point underdog with an over-under of 59.5 if you're into that sort of thing. The ESPN matchup predictor gives WKU only a 36.1% chance of victory compared to 63.9% for Toledo. So Tyler, man, it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be two of the top G5 teams in the nation going head to head with potentially some college football playoff implications on the line, depending on how the rest of their seasons go. So, how are you feeling about this matchup with Toledo?
This is going to be a huge test, not because it's our first road game, but I think this may be one of the toughest games on our schedule. Them and definitely LSU, but Toledo wants that revenge. They've had a year to think about it. They couldn't been happy with how the game ended last year. So they definitely want to beat us. I think this is going to take everything we got. We're going to have to play really good football, and I feel like Coach Helton will get the team there. I feel like we have enough weapons that I know Toledo has some good defensive players, but you're going to cover a lot of people out there on the field, and I feel like Maverick can pick them apart. I feel like receivers will run good routes, but I'll get into that later. But I mean, it's definitely going to be a slobber knocker. It's going to be. I don't want to steal Brahms' uh, phrase, but what was it? Fist fight between the whistles. We're going to have to fist fight between them whistles.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough matchup, and they had that revenge factor. You mentioned that, and but the one thing I like, it sucks it's our first road game. I wish we had kind of got that monkey off our back. We haven't really faced a lot of adversity yet this year. 2 home games, they've been pretty clean overall. But I like that our offense is coming together. But I also feel like our offense is a lot different than what they saw last year. Granted, they have tape on us. There's 2 games worth of tape. They can comb over that and see that it's not Caden Veltkamp. You're not going to get all those quarterback sneaks and draws. And Maverick's going to be a lot more accurate with the ball, in my opinion. So I feel good about the game. I'm worried about it. It's not a gimme by any means, but it's going to be a tough game. But I like our chances. Now, jumping into the Toledo team and the players that we need to know, starting on the offensive side for Toledo, you have to start with their quarterback, Tucker Gleason. He's number 4 on the roster, 6'3", 245-pound senior. He was a Field Steel MAC preseason second teamer. In last year's game against WKU, he finished 19 out of 33, 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also had 12 carries for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. So a versatile quarterback, a little bit of a mobile quarterback, as we saw last year with his legs. Their second player to know, wide receiver Junior Vander Ross, number 2 on the roster, 5'8", 182-pound senior. He's a Field Steel MAC preseason first teamer. And last year he had 6 receptions for 42 yards. He was their most targeted wide receiver, and is coming back. He really, just watching tape on him, he really gives me Katie Hutchinson vibes. Every time I watch him, he's just a quick, shifty back. I think he's from Tampa, Florida. Even he's a Florida boy, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a good one, and he's a burner. He can hit a home run every time he gets the ball. So, really impressed by him. And then lastly, I have their running back Chip Trainum. He's number 1 on the roster, 5'11", 227 pounds. He is a senior. He was a Field Steel MAC preseason third teamer. He's a transfer from UK. He also previously played at Arizona State and Ohio State. And his only game so far this year. He had 14 carries for 41 yards and 3 receptions for 42 yards. So really, I mean, he really kind of gives me that he's a bigger back, a little bit of a power back, but also played out of Arizona State. I bet George Hart knows him. Haven't asked George's dad yet. If he's listening, I will DM him after this. But also played at Ohio State, so he's a heck of a player if he can play at those two programs. Went to UK, didn't work out. Now he's at Toledo. His production from game one really reminds me of Marvis Parrish in our game one. Just a nice balance between 40, 50 yards rushing, 40, 50 yards receiving. Just that versatile back that you have to be accounting for, even if he's not handing the ball off to him. So, I guess Tyler, how do you feel about their offense and how will it stack up with our defense?
Well, if this was last year's defense, I would be a lot more suspicious of how we're going to handle Gleason. Because last year it seemed like mobile quarterbacks gave us fits. Um, this year I feel like we've improved on that, and I was listening to the UK Toledo game just to try to get a feel for them, and I had to miss some of it, but I do remember listening to the post game with their radio guys talking, and they said UK was able to get pressure up the center, flush Gleason out, and yes, he can run, but if he wants to run and throw, he's not real accurate that way. But the dude has one hell of an arm. He's a big guy. What 6'3", 245. I mean, that's a big boy back there. Um, so we're gonna have to spy on him, keep him in our eyes. That running back, he against UK had 14 carries, 41 yards, longest of 12. So if they was able to handle them, I feel like we can, even though it's probably gonna be a little bit harder. And that junior Vanderos, great wide receiver, but I also like to bring your attention to that Trayvon Rudolph. He is a senior and he's number one. Um, he's a three-time All MAC player at NIU, but he transferred. Um, Shown right here, he's got like 27, Jesus, 27 starts, 2,047 yards, 474 rush yards, and 1,440 kick return. So he's kind of like their all around. The boy can go out there and do anything. So I want to keep an eye on him and their tight end, Jacob Peterson. He's 6'4", 250 pounds. He has 10 starts, um, 502 yards last year at Holy Cross. So yeah, I mean they have some weapons, and our defense is definitely going to have to key in on the receivers. I don't know if you want to try if you with that junior. I don't know if you'd want to try to bracket him in if he's uh, Tucker's favorite target. I don't know if you'd really want to sell out all the way on him because I know our defensive backs are talented. Our defensive backs can and will, you know, break up a pass or intercept it or, can kind of keep their offense in check. But I do like our defense going against these guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think and we'll get into keys to victory here shortly, but um, it really feels like a strength on strength. They seem to lean more on the pass than the run. I noticed he dropped back 40 times and passed against UK. Now a lot of that might have been game flow. They were playing from behind most of the game, so had to throw the ball a little bit more, but as mobile as he is and can be, I still think he prefers to throw the ball. And even watching him play last year, didn't seem like complete designed runs as much as there was some pressure and had to run breakdown. So let's look at the players to know on their defensive side of the ball. First off is defensive tackle Martez Pointer. He's number 8 on the roster, a 6'4", 290-pound senior. He is a field steel first team All MAC selection. Next player to know is cornerback Avery Smith, number 4 on the roster, 5'10", 185 pounds. He is a senior and a first team Field Steel All MAC selection. And then lastly, safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren, number 7 on the roster. He's 6'2", 202 pounds. He is also a senior. He is also a Field Steel first team All MAC selection. And he is the reigning East West Shrine Bowl Defensive Player of the Week with his performance against UK. So obviously, Not very often when we do these, defensive players to know that we get three first team all conference guys, and two of those are in their secondary. So when I said earlier, this is going to be strength on strength. We like to pass the ball. They have a really, really strong secondary. They like to pass the ball. We have a really strong secondary. So one of their fans made a comment to us to our account on Twitter, X, whatever, after the first game. They said, "Man, I can't wait to watch y'all try to drop back that many times and throw the ball against us." All right, let's go. Let's bring it on. It's gonna be a battle, and I can't wait because it ain't Caden back there slinging it anymore. We saw those 4 interceptions by him against Maryland. We got Maverick back there, and nine touchdowns, no interceptions. He's okay. We like our guy. We'll stick with him. But Tyler, how do you think this defense matches up with our offense?
Uh, well, I think their defensive backs are going to cause us the most problem. I feel like our offensive line will be able to handle like Martez Pointer. Yes, he is a big guy, and what was it last year? He had uh 30 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. So he can get back there. So you definitely have to keep an eye on him. That Avery Smith, I mean, what he had 14 pass breakups, 58 tackles, and 2 interceptions last year. Their defensive line, uh, they lost a lot of them, or they lost their 4 starters, and they are less experienced, but they are returning 14 of their top 16 tacklers. So yes, they did lose some on defensive line. Linebackers is another one, as another position that they kind of dropped down a little bit in 2025, or they dropped some this year. Um, but I think their defensive backs are definitely going to play us smart. Defensive backs are going to try to keep Maverick from getting over the top. I mean, that's what teams know we're going to do. Um, and I'll talk about what we can do for that in our key to victory. But um, this this is going to be a hard game. But to try and pick the score out for this one, super hard. But I do like us going in there. I think the reason why they got favored in the ESPN is just because they're playing at home, and I mean it's a good team. Um, I think we had better than 36% chance of win, but I think that home factor is definitely what pushed them over the top on that ranking or rating.
Yeah, I definitely expected that spread before it went public Sunday morning. I expected it to be in the 3.5 to 4.5 range. When it was, I saw a couple books 5.5, one 6.5 on ESPN Bet. Almost a touchdown giving them. That's a lot. That's a lot. They say home field's worth 3 points, but um, I like our odds. That's all I'll say. Let's jump into those keys to victory that you alluded to. Tyler, what is your first key to victory for us to beat Toledo at the Glass House?
I think we're gonna have to get the run game involved. Our run game has been good this year. Marvish Paris, Parrish has done excellent, being a weapon not only in running the ball straight from a handoff or a sweep, but going out and catching a pass and then getting upfield and getting that yak. So, um, we'll definitely like to see him, George, and Lavelle really come out here and shine in this game.
Yeah, I'm going with turnovers. I think we have to limit and win the turnover battle, and that last year was quite frankly a problem. I mean, both of the teams were throwing picks, fumbling the ball. It was just kind of I don't want to say a sloppy game, but there was just a lot of takeaways in the game. Went back and watched it a couple weeks ago as well. And, if not for that weather delay and kind of letting us get into the locker room and kind of reset our head and our mindset and what we were focused on, who knows if we come back and win that game? It was a totally different team when we came back out there after that lightning delay. So we have to take care of the ball. You can't go on the road and give the ball up and give them 2 or 3 extra possessions because you're throwing picks or you're fumbling the ball. We have to be very conscientious of being efficient with the ball, driving it down. If nothing else, taking time off the clock. You're not going to score every possession. That's not going to happen. Or win the field position battle. Pin them deep if we're not scoring. Not handing it back to them. Potentially a live ball turnover and they go and score like we saw against Sam Houston. We don't want that to happen. So take care of the ball, win the turnover battle, limit turnovers in general. Tyler, what is your second key to victory versus Toledo?
Limit their run game. You can either do that by defensive plays or coming out scoring quick, scoring more points. It really limits them to try to get up the field quick to where they don't want to pass the ball, which is where our defensive backs and our coverage can really shine. Um, because you think about it, if you take away what they're good at, I mean, they're going to have to, they got to move the ball up the field. So come out and limit their run game.
Yeah, I went with getting pressure on the quarterback, getting pressure in the backfield. Making Tucker or making Gleason uncomfortable back there, and we've done that very well in our first two games. Had 9 tackles for loss in our first game. Had I think it was 7 tackles for loss against North Alabama. I think we have to continue that. We have to get in the backfield and disrupt their offense, disrupt his timing, get in his face, sack him obviously if and when we can, but just make him make bad decisions. He threw 2 interceptions last year. So we know that if we get in his place and force a throw, if he has to get rid of the ball, I like our back end. If we speed him up, he can and will make mistakes. So I think getting pressure on the quarterback and what our defensive line has been doing all season so far, they just need to keep that up. Get in his face, boys. Tyler, what do you got for your third key to victory?
Be the bigger bully. They definitely gonna want to come out and just start laying punches to us. But I'd like to see us push them around, kind of control the line of scrimmage. Really just do whatever we want to. So we're going to have to fight. We're going to have to claw. We're going to have to scratch. We're going to have to fight like we're the third elephant on the line up to Noah's Ark, and it's starting to rain.
A street fight between the whistles. I like it. I went with a cliche one. I think one that I went with, but for both of the first two games, but it's just so important for every single ball game, and that's win the battle of third downs. Obviously, when we're on offense, we have to extend drives. We have to be up near that 50% plus conversion percentage when we have the ball and we're driving. We just have to do that. If we stall and we're continuously putting it back to them, it can make for a long day, especially if you sprinkle in turnovers and they're going down and scoring fast or whatever it may be. And then defensively, we have to get them off the field on third down. Whether that's pressure, whether that's just stuffing them, whether it's our secondary just jamming up their wide receivers. We've been really good in that regard all season in both aspects, on offense and defense. But this is going to be the biggest test by far, maybe of the season, except for LSU. It's probably our toughest game, our toughest matchup. And like I said earlier, it's strength on strength. It's two teams that are good on the back end, like to throw the ball, have several weapons. It's going to be a tough one. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think that's as 101 as it sounds. It's one of those things that has to happen. You very rarely lose the battle of third downs and then are on the plus side in the victory column. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Tyler, who have you got for your MVT versus Toledo?
I'm gonna have to go back with Maverick McIver on this one. He's gonna have to pick the D apart. He's gonna have to make smart passes. He's gonna have to lead the team when he's out there on offense. He can't make boneheaded decisions. He can't be quick to throw it into danger. And I feel like he's mature enough not to do that. So we're gonna roll with Maverick.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And 3 for 3 games in a row, I'm going with Maverick. But in a game of this magnitude, and one that you know historically in the Tyson Helton tenure, this is a game that he doesn't go on the road and win. He doesn't do it. Couldn't do it with Bailey Zappi. Lost some tough games to IU and UTSA a couple times, and had a 7-5 season with the all-time greatest statistical season for a quarterback in NCAA history. Just couldn't get over the hump. For us to get over that hump, we need Maverick McIver to be what he has been the first two games and probably more. Just as decisive, just as efficient. You know, no turnovers. Now, I'm not saying one can't happen, but he's not been making bad decisions. I think he threw a couple iffy balls versus Sam Houston, but against North Alabama, I mean, granted he only played a half and a drive or two, but didn't throw any iffy balls. He was very decisive, getting a lot cleaner. Goes through his progressions so well. I mean, I think you can tell a night and day difference in just the way our offense clicks and having so many more options and weapons out there. So it's got to be Maverick McIver. If we're going to go win this tough ball game on the road as underdogs, Maverick's got to be the one leading the way. Tyler, now the tough part. What have you got for a score prediction and who's winning?
I have rolled this question around in my head last few days. I'm going to go tops win first of all, 31-28. I'm hitting the under. Um, and yeah, it's going to be a close game, and I feel like Top's going to be able to do it. I feel like we got the weapons, we've got the team. Coaches are going to have a great game plan because we didn't have to show everything we can do against Sam Houston or against North Alabama. Toledo, if they could have, they would have beat Kentucky. So I feel like they showed what they do and their game plans more than we did. So yes, we only have one game tape on them, but I feel like it's a lot. And the coaches are going to be watching that film. Coach going to be having the team watching that film and can see what they can and cannot do.
Well, once again, no pressure on both of us, but game one hit it on the head. Game two, we both danced around it by just a few points on each side. But game three, I'm going with a Hilltopper victory, and I've got us winning 38-31, a 7 point victory, a 6.5 point underdogs. I like our offense that much. That's what it boils down to. We scored 26 points last year with a not very efficient, not very good offense that averaged 25 points per game. We're coming into this game averaging 48 points per game. Going back and watching last year's game, the efficiency of our offense, or lack thereof, I should say, is kind of mind blowing. Going back now in retrospect and watching it, you're just like, God, we weren't very fluid last year, and a lot of new faces. Obviously, a new offensive coordinator, Rick Bowie, new quarterback, Maverick McIver, a lot of new skill position players. And I think we've seen what this offense can do. And I like the team we have. And I don't remember if in our season preview and predictions, I might have had this as a loss. It might have been, I think I did have it as a loss. Um, but now that I've seen them play, I've seen Maverick live and in action. I've seen Rick Bowie and his offense. I have no reason to believe that we can't go up there and win. Not going to be easy. It may be closer than that 7 point spread that I predicted. If it's a 1 point win, if it's 38-37, I'll take it. That's the only thing I care about. At the end of the season, it goes in the left hand column or the right hand column. And honestly, it's not going to matter to our conference aspirations and winning CUSA, going to a conference title. But there's a college football playoff. It's been expanded. There's a G5 automatic qualifier. Right now, we're still in that race. We're still in that hunt and in that race until we're not. And we have to lose a game to not be in that hunt. If we continue winning, and this is a tough game, we can win. And then we have Nevada. That'll be a tough game. And then we go into conference play. But there's not an unwinnable game on this schedule, except for LSU. We'll say that's probably a loss. But the team that I've seen play the last 2 weeks and the expected progression of them getting better, obviously there's going to be adversity. That's going to happen. Every game's not going to be a 40-point win. Us putting up 40 every game. But the team that I've seen can win a lot of ball games. I like our skill. I like our talent. I like our team, our coaches, our leadership. And I'm really excited to see them, man, in Toledo. It's going to be a heck of a ball game. Do want to real quick apologize for not having the spaces after the North Alabama game. I mentioned I was under the weather. Still a little bit hoarse today, as you can tell over the microphone, but hopefully we get that back and going after the Toledo game, celebrating a victory. Hopefully, maybe have some Toledo friends join us as well. I think they joined us last year after we had the game here at home in Bowling Green, but expecting that there won't be. I'm sure a good amount of people will go to Toledo. It's not a terrible trip. Unfortunately, I'm not making it, but I think we'll have a good amount of people on the spaces after the game, especially if we win. If we're celebrating a victory, you usually catch a lot more flies with honey. So, looking forward to that. Hoping we get that back on the schedule this week. Obviously, we'll let you know as game time is rolling around. But Looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a heck of a game. Tyler, hit us with your final words and take us on out of here.
Well, I'd like to apologize also earlier when you asked me about the cover up or covering the North Alabama game. I said Tucker Parks came in. That was Rodney Tisdale. He came in, and the boy looked sharp. I feel comfortable with him being the second string if that's who Hilton is picking. I do like him. Now, this game. You're right. It's not going to affect us conference wise, but in the overall big picture, I would love to win this game, if not just for bragging rights alone, because I mean it's Ohio. It's a slang term for bad, skibbity Ohio or skibbity toilet
And
Ohio.
we haven't lost to a MAC team in quite a while. I meant to look that up, but we've been really good against the MAC for like 8, 9, 10 victories in a row. It's crazy.
I thought we've lost to Buffalo. Did we lose Buffalo?
No, sir.
Huh, I thought we did. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like um, this game is very winnable. We just gonna have to come out, play smart, and make the right reads. And I feel like our team can do that. I guess the other thing is, can someone check on Derek Mason down in Murfreesboro? Um, it's, it's typically a little bit later in the season before the dumpster is actually on fire, and the fire department's called. But I mean, it's just crazy.
The Fire Mason tweets have already started. After game one, Austin P, they are ranked 136 out of 136 in the nation.
Mm. Well,
Yikes.
I know I had a coworker go down there because he is from Murfreesboro, and he was talking about how terrible it was. But you just love to see it. Um, but no, this game should be a great game to watch, fun game to keep up with, and I'm excited for the spaces. I'm excited to recap it, and it's going to be a Hilltop for victory. I'm calling it right now. It's going to be a hard fought win. It's going to be a worthy win, but uh, a win all the same. So, with that, Moff, who has better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See y'all.